if it's your first time hanging out here with us, this is our Star Trek Sunday brunch. We're going through Star Trek episodes that I've watched a million times and Samantha's watching for the very first time. And we are in the midst of Deep Space Nine. We are in the thick of Deep Space Nine.
We are in the thick of it, yes.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
So good.
It's so good.
This entire hour could just be us saying, it's so good.
It's so good.
So good.
Yeah, exactly.
That would sum it up.
So this week we're going to be discussing season 5 of Deep Space Nine, episodes 7 through 12. So the episodes that we'll be talking about, we'll step through each of them and give descriptions as we go. We've got Let He Who Is Without Sin, Things Past, The Ascent, which we're very excited to talk about, Rapture, The Darkness and the Light, and The Begotten, which is also a fabulous one. And hello, everyone. I see you in the chat. Excellent. All right. So, shall we dive in?
Yes.
All right. The first one that we're going to talk about is Let He Who Is Without Sin, which can kind of just be summed up as the grumpy Worf on Risa episode.
Correct.
Worf and Jadzia decide that they need some couple alone time to themselves, and especially now that like everyone knows what's going on with them, and they get accompanied by Lita and Bashir, and then Quark hangs along as well, and it's
just like invite themselves on Dax's like romantic vacation, which is amazing.
Exactly. And this is called, in other words, the not so subtle Star Trek sexy times episode, because it's all about relationships and yeah, and intimacy.
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts on this one? Because you like Worf.
I do.
So
I do like
kind of a
Worf.
tough one for Worf.
This is a tough one, and he makes some decisions that I was like, really. But I don't know. I mean, I identify with Worf so much because like I would be uncomfortable in a Risa type situation, I think. And I was like, I feel you so much right now. Like you just want to wear your uniform on the beach. I mean, I'm not quite that bad, but I really identify with what he was going through in that kind of can't let loose sort of sense.
But that wouldn't drive you to join an environmental terrorist organization.
No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. But I just think that was funny that Worf like immediately like saw this group, and he's like, my people.
Yeah, I like that. I can get behind that. Jeez, oh man, Worf.
Yeah, he gets so like weak-minded because they just basically take advantage of the fact that he's so miserable and so Starfleety.
Yeah.
And they just lay their okay boomer lines on him.
I love this episode. I love Risa. I'm wearing my Shore Leave on Little Risa shirt. But it is
Risa's cool. I like it.
It's hard. Yeah, there are some great lines in this. I think it's a funny episode. I texted you while I was watching it, and I'm like, I just love Quark in vacation mode with his little Hawaiian shirt.
It's the best. I mean, Quark just manages to be so endearing in those moments. It's just like little Quark in vacation mode.
Exactly. So in the chat, Todd said, let's not forget this episode cold open is Morn on a date.
Oh yeah,
remember that?
Rose.
Yeah.
Do we even see who he gives it to or anything? It's just Morn walking through with a rose.
Goes and gives his. No, we do see briefly. I think like he gives her flowers, but it's just Morn. We love him.
It's so cute.
So good. Yeah, and he's also got, Todd also mentioned one of Worf's great romance quotes about what he saw as the most beautiful thing until now. Boom! Mm-hmm. Mic drop.
Boom! Well done, Worf.
Exactly. How'd you like the Bashir and Lita storyline?
I mean, it was a little weird, but I mean, I mean, I don't know. It ended and I was like, I don't know what to take from that.
Right.
But now she's free for Rom, right?
Which is adorable.
And Bashir is free for me, so it's okay.
I love it. Speaking truth. That's awesome. And I did like that Lita confessed her feelings for Rom. That was adorable. And Quark's reaction is gold.
Yeah, Quark was like, my brother Rom?
That
my brother Rom? And he and Bashir are like looking at each other like, she was attracted to you and she's attracted to Rom. Yeah. I love how Quark can just not put it together.
Yeah, I know, it's so great, but it's adorable. And we have the Horgons, as Laura mentioned, the little Ryza statues that indicate you are prepared for I always say it's wrong. Jamaharon. That's it. Which is, again, just Star Trek sexy times.
Yeah, I love it.
Not subtle about that. And I like the idea of a vacation planet. That
totally.
It's like any Caribbean resort type thing.
Exactly. I think the first time I saw, because we started with Voyager and they don't do Ryza and Voyager, so I think the first time I saw it was like in Next Gen with Riker.
Yeah.
And the creepy like VR thing that they did.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's fair. Oh, and DS9er fan said Lita is attracted to smart, caring men. There you go.
Love it.
That's the connection. That's the through.
Well done.
So good. And so, okay, like Worf has his own kind of issues in this episode, but I think it's, how do you feel about him and Dax now after this?
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. She was really quite stubborn in this, and it really made it seem like they have a lot of similarities, but there's certainly an opposites attract element there. And I thought she was a little pushy in some regards. Not that I didn't agree with her perspective, but I think she thought Worf had to do all the fixing and she didn't have to do any compromising on her end. But I thought it was a cool like way of them showing like Worf and Dax sort of in their own way working on their relationship. By the end of the episode, I think I wasn't sure if they would be a thing forever. But I liked how they sort of started to work through their issues.
Like I think
they'd have.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Seem to naturally work, you know, like it is one of those things where, you know, I like any kind of couple that it's good to go on a trip together. Like those are sort of your basic couple things that you try to do to make sure like your relationship is going to work. And I think this was one where it was like, like roadblock, maybe this isn't going to work. And then they talk through it and they managed to make it happen. So it does work. And yeah, the discussion about the weather that's going on in the chat, again, Samantha's not paying attention to it, so I'm gonna try to call it out. And
sorry,
avoiding spoilers is all worth it. Yeah, they have a essentially weather controlling thing on Ryza that just makes it nice all the time. And 2 suns as well.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes. Yeah, indeed. All right, any other thoughts on this one? I mean, I think it's a fun episode. I think it's a good one for Worf, like, to just kind of see his personality a little bit more and remind ourselves that he can be a little grumpy and difficult from time to time.
Yeah. Oh, isn't this the one where he tells that story about the kid on the soccer field? Where and that's why he is so restrained and non-Klingon-like? I thought that was interesting.
So just to remind people, this is where him and Dax are like fighting they're in an argument about why he is the way he is. And she's like, I'm more Klingon than you are, like Curzon, and like I am better at Klingon culture than you are, and yet you try to be this like pure Klingon. And then he tells the story of growing up and accidentally he killed the kid, right? On accident, or
killed or paralyzed him or something.
And he realized like it didn't impact him at all. And so then from then on, to not hurt the people he cares about, he's always had to restrain himself, which is a metaphor for Worf's entire being. But it is a good insight, good character story.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on this one? That was a good reminder.
Yeah. No, we can move on.
All right. Grumpy Worf is grumpy. That was my major note for that
Let's
one.
sum up.
Okay, the next one is Things Past. So this is the one where Sisko, Odo, Dax, and Garrick are in the shuttle on the way back from a conference. As they do. And they basically are found unconscious. They wake up during the Cardassian occupation of Bajor a few years prior. And they've essentially assumed the lives of these people. Odo, knows who they are and what's about to happen. That they were accused of attempting to kill Gul Dukat, but they were basically framed, I think. And then it's revealed that this was all Odo's projection,
subconscious, basically.
It is. Yeah, no worries, Baka. I think this is an okay episode. I think it can be a little bit slow at times, but how'd you like it?
Yeah, I agree. It was a little disjointed in times, but it was a good, I think from a first time viewer standpoint, it was a fairly interesting mystery slash exposition, important exposition to get more insight into the before times on DS9. I really appreciate these episodes because it gives me a lot more context into why Kira's the way she is right now, why Odo's the way he is, why what the difference is between the DS9 station today versus what it was actually used for and who was on it and how it was previously. So I really liked that part of it. That's what really stands out. I mean, I didn't take away too much else other than just see the visual differences and the people and what, DS9 during the occupation.
I think what's interesting in this one too is that typically when we've had glimpses into when it was Terok-Nor, it's been through the lens of mostly Kira and some Odo and Gul Dukat and a little bit of Garrick, although I think this might be the first time that he's sort of portrayed literally in where he's among that time and remembers what it was like. So it's interesting to have Sisko and Dax be there and sort of be taking in what the occupation was actually like, which I think is pretty interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. But what I couldn't quite get was by the end of the episode, were they actually all there or was it just Odo's projection? They weren't actually there, obviously, because it was their minds, but
yeah.
Do they remember or was it just Odo?
Was it just that they were unconscious and Odo?
Yeah.
I think they're doing a shared consciousness thing because wasn't it a plasma storm or something that fried all their brains? I'll see if the chat brain remembers any of that.
And then it was Garrick that was able to help with the security codes or something.
Yeah.
He's like, I know everything.
He's a simple tailor. These are things he needs to know.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So some people are saying as some form of the link, that he was able to kind of connect to all of that.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's the consensus.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. Curious about Gul Dukat in this, and your opinions on Gul Dukat. We talked about him a lot last time.
Yeah. I didn't like him in this one. From what I remember.
Well, because he basically has the you get to see, because Dax is basically one of his harem, I guess. Yeah. I don't know a better phrase for that, but
that was not cool.
Not and now knowing Tora Zial's sort of story, you get a little bit more insight into how she came into being, and
so he was on the downside.
Okay, I'm sorry for your loss.
No, I'm not, because now I will no longer. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't say anything.
You may continue to have confusing feelings about Gul Dukat, and that's okay. This is perfectly fine, and yeah, my feelings for Garrick run deep, so it's okay. And speaking of Garrick, I love the opening where they're coming back from this conference and like debriefing kind of what happens, and apparently he's like, it was a conference on Bajor, and Garrick went to go like talk to them about a Cardassian perspective on this stuff, and he's like, I don't know why they didn't like me. Talking about having his name badge.
It was supposed to be objective.
So funny.
He's so like naive and innocent in some ways. It's like,
yeah.
Unless, I don't know.
Said like, is your name badge basically said Elam Garrick, former Cardassian oppressor. This is so funny. Awesome. I love that. That was good levity leading into this episode. Yeah. For some reason, they weren't thrilled that he was there. Okay. Any more on this one? There's not a ton to this. Yeah. Did it give you any more insight, I guess, into that time? You mentioned it kind of helped a little bit to see Terok Nor, but
I don't know. I think just like seeing it visually that, it's a Cardassian station, and this is how they're treating the Bajorans. There's like cages and work duties and Cardassian, what's the word, like corruption all around, so really seeing it as what its original intent was, and gives me a lot more context. And I think just seeing it visually that way, like if I were to watch DS9 over again, I'd have that ground point to start from. Yeah,
because they also expose a lot of the corruption that was going on, right? That, and even down to Odo, right? That was sort of like being on the inside with them, and some of the guilt that he bears for that is pretty interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Also, fun fact: LeVar Burton directed this episode. Thank you, DS9er fan.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Okay. Let's get to the next one.
Let's do it.
I love the next episode.
It's so good.
It's so good. This is the Ascent. So this is where Odo and Quark are forced to crash land on a desolate planet, and they must climb a mountain together to be able to transmit their distress signal. And concurrently, Jake and Nog share quarters together and find out it's not all it's cracked up to be. And the main theme, even though Todd mentioned it's a Quark must suffer episode, it's a great odd coupling friendship, like when friendships in whatever form they take are tested in extreme environments, such as living together or going through an accident together. So much to love.
So much to love about this episode. Just the dialogue, the just putting them together, forcing them together in these situations. And the thing is, like, Odo and Quark were forced together. Jake and Nog chose to try this out. But there's just so much realness to Jake and Nog's story. It's like when you first move in with someone, you're like, oh, it's gonna be great.
It's gonna be awesome.
And then you just don't get what other people's habits are, how they're different. And I loved their story. And every time they get together and they like don't get along, I'm like, that's gonna be it. That's it. But then they just sort of, they're just real friends. Yeah. Like they have such a real friendship. So I love that. And then just Quark and Odo, I mean, climbing the Sierras was just, I mean, brilliant look at their relationship. I mean, through this like lens of extreme hardship that they have to
live
through. But
so let's focus on the Quark and Odo first. So they are in this shuttle together, and they are annoying the crap out of each other. I mean, we know they have a love-hate relationship. It's like, we know they care about each other, but on paper, they don't care about each other. I love where they're nitpicking, where Quark keeps telling him to chew quieter. It's like, stop smacking your lips. I'm not smacking you. Like, he's just provoking him. And then Quark is like, I'm going to go wait in the, I'm going to go back to the quarters or whatever. And Odo's just like,
yeah, it's brilliant.
Just trying to poke him. Yeah, total misphonium on Quark's behalf, for sure. And then the fact he finds out he's reading a romance novel.
I know, for research.
So good.
I love that. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Yeah. Can't live with them, can't live without them. Exactly.
Yeah.
I also love the scene where Odo wakes up and they thought that Quark died.
Yes.
Like, okay, and then just starts hitting him, and he's like, Quark,
hitting him.
Stop hitting me.
Yeah, I mean, for a second, I thought Quark died. It took him a long time to wake up.
Yeah. Oh gosh,
yeah.
So good. So
there's just so many great moments. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. Any other Quark and Odo moments you wanted to mention?
I don't know. I mean, the last part where he fixes Odo's leg, and he like drags. I mean, that was not Quark like, I thought, at all. But of course he's like, I'm going to eat you if you die. But they're just saying these things at that point, and the fact that he saves Odo's life, and then there's that moment where Odo like starts pushing the thing. He's like, we've got to get out of here, and Quark does it. He does it, which I think is just kind of awesome.
Tumor Boy gets saying, now kiss.
Yeah, I actually thought that while I was watching it. But it doesn't make as much sense.
No, it's not the same kind of tension. It's just, I think in addition to being great insight into Quark and Odo's character, I think one thing it brings to it as well is seeing Quark actually not be a terrible dude, right? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
He does help, and he does try. He complains a lot, but he does it.
Yeah. I think what we've seen when Quark is pushed to certain moments, when he really has to make a decision, he makes the right one usually.
Yeah. I would agree with that for sure. All right, let's talk then about Jake and Nog. There's so much to love here. So Nog has just come back. He's like he's in cadet mode, and he's gonna be on Deep Space Nine for a while, and so they get their opportunity to live together. It's gonna be awesome, man. We're gonna be away from the parents. We're gonna be hanging out and doing our own thing, and it is not what I expected.
But can I just say, I appreciate Nog so much in how he behaves from being in Starfleet. Like, there's certain Ferengi mannerisms and stuff that are very annoying. And I think, and Nog had a lot of those, but he's really disciplined, and he's clearly studied and tried, and he's in it. Like, he's not relapsing, I guess. Yeah. But I just kind of love that. I don't know why that strikes me so much, but I think it's really special that he's like doing a good job in Starfleet.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, Tumor Boy said, yay, character progression.
Right.
Yeah, character growth, for sure. But I think it's one of those classic cases of swinging too far in the other direction. And he's like, I love when Rom joins Cisco and they have their little moment of commiseration, and Rom's like, I think he's a changeling. I took blood from him. And he's like, he called me untidy. He wrote, what did he say? I put this down. He put me on report for being untidy.
Oh my God, that little moment between him and Cisco is so brilliant. It's just so cute to have them both like just commiserating about their teenagers. I mean, it's just this great little moment.
So cute. Also,
Oh,
Ecom 2222 subscribed to. Yay! Thank you for the subscription, Garrick Jazz Hands.
woohoo.
Yeah, when they're like, it's across the board complaining it, and anyone who has made that mistake of being like, everyone's like, don't live with friends, you're gonna regret it, and then you're like, no, this is gonna be different, and then you live together, and it doesn't work. This is very relatable. Of just you're a slob, pick up after yourself. Just all the little nitpicking from like first year college roommate stuff is fabulous.
Totally. Yeah, it's so relatable.
Yeah, so painfully relatable.
Yeah, and I just love how Cisco makes it like because he and Rom are like, well, maybe we need to. I wish Jake was more like Nog, and I wish Nog was more like Jake. It's they do their own little reverse parent trap thing. But I love how Cisco makes that happen, and that he's really smart. Like he knows how to talk to Nog, and he knows how to talk to Jake. To Nog, he's like, I'm your commanding officer. This is an order. Jake's like, and I'm your father. Like,
Yeah.
that was a cool moment too.
And you can come back and live at home, but it's going to be living at home with dad again, just so
Yeah.
you're aware. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is really, really good. I love the little digs that Jake does about Nog's pajamas.
Yes.
Making him, the whole thing is just so real and so relatable. It's fabulous. So,
It's just amazing.
yeah.
Oh, such a good episode.
All right, so that's definitely, I think for both of us, this wins the best episode of the lot that we're discussing here.
Easily.
Easily. The next one we're going to talk about is Rapture. So this is where Cisco starts to have prophetic visions when they find like this sort of obelisk thing, and then he is able to discover this like ancient Bajoran city, which is Bahala, because I kept thinking I was hearing Valhalla every time we talked about it. It's Bahala. It's been lost for 20,000 years. And Kai Wynn is back. My child. And begins to reconsider her attitude towards him. So, interesting episode about faith and Cisco. And I'm really curious your thoughts on this.
Yeah. This episode made me very uncomfortable. Cisco's acting real weird. I think he started to act a little weird before and after being possessed by an obelisk. So there's that. I don't know. This was a little creepy, I thought. I mean, it's kind of cool that Cisco's taking his emissary role a little bit more seriously and in stride. But it also seemed a little bit like the prophets or somebody was like controlling him. So I didn't love that. And of course you get Kai Wynn, who gets what she wants by the end. So I'm like, what was that about? Like, did she just call the prophets up and say, hey, we need this to get done?
Yeah. Kai Wynn be Kai winning, man. She does her thing.
I'm winning.
Exactly. Which the definition now officially of Kai winning means relentlessly and painfully elbowing your way to the front of the line. Trying to convince everyone that you're doing the right thing as you do it. Oh, God. Yeah, Muhammad remembered the great line, you cannot loosen a man's tongue with root beer. That is it.
And Cork's like, wait, what?
Great line. Yeah, I mean, I find this episode really interesting for a number of ways. Like, I don't tend to be a huge fan of the Bajoran religion episodes, just personally aren't necessarily my jam all the time. I do love-hate Kai Wynn, though. When she shows up, I get that little glee of, like, shenanigans are about to go
What
down.
kind of, like, same level volume voice chaos is she going to ensue now?
Yeah, exactly. But what I thought was really interesting is the fact that, yeah, Cisco essentially like becomes what the Bajoran people expected him to be like as the emissary. Like, he has visions. He is like a prophet to them. He is able to find stuff. Like, there is a connection. And I thought that was really insightful too when his I think he's an admiral. His admiral friend comes to get him, because the whole point is that Bajor is going to join the Federation, and he comes to get him, and he's like, okay, like, I understand, Cisco, like, what you told them. It's like, but how'd you find it? Like, just tell me, how'd you find it? And Cisco's like, it was a vision, man. The prophets gave it to me. And that's, again, very relatable type of conversation.
Yeah.
But it's really, I find it interesting. And then Kai Wynn in this episode, of course, is a ball of blood pressure. But I thought the scene where she lays into Kira about being, you think you're so special that you're the only one who, like, suffered and saved Bajor. Like, honey, let me tell you something. It's a good scene.
That was a good scene. That was very interesting. I actually kind of loved hearing Kai Wynn's side of the quote unquote side of the story there. And yeah, she suffered too.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, I mean, I think I did like that as well.
So here's a question for you, and I've promised that once we finally finish Deep Space Nine, we're going to have a whole episode dedicated to just discussing Kai Wynn and her work. But do you think Kai Wynn actually, like, apologized to Cisco? Like, did she actually come crawling back and say, I'm sorry I didn't... Or no, because she asks Kira to apologize for her, right? She says, do you think that he would... forgive me for not believing that he was the emissary?
I really don't know. It was hard to tell. My instinct is I don't think so. I think there's still something cooking. But I don't know.
I think at this point, she is eating crow. That's a saying, right?
I think
is
it? Yes, I'll go with that.
Because she's worried that Cisco could destroy her. Like, she's like,
oh yeah,
I need to be on this guy's side now. Like, I could kind of play the, like, Federation versus Bajor. I have the true interest of the Bajoran people at heart. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's an imposter type thing. Believe me, not him. And then it's like, oh crap. Sorry, dude. Let's be friends. All good? We all good here? I think it's more just manipulative on her part of, like, don't piss off the guy who has some power to change things for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was definitely the sense that I got. She's like, okay, shrewd politician move right now. I need to sidle up to this guy. Yeah. Because he's going to help me advance to a certain place and I can keep him close.
Yeah. She doesn't, her whole relationship with the prophets is probably something else entirely, but when it comes to the political machinations of Bajor, she's like, I gotta be on that guy's side.
Yeah.
Love it. She's fabulous. Okay, Cassidy Yates is back.
Yeah.
And not punished necessarily. She was expecting, and of course she arrives back when Cisco's in his weird state. Yeah. But she does come and she's like, I did not expect you to be okay with me here. But yeah. So.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, I don't know if he actually was, because he was like, he basically descends into a certain kind of madness over the hour of the episode. Yeah. And so he's like not himself in that moment. He's like on another plane of existence. So who knows what the real Cisco would have thought when she showed up. And because of the beginning, he says to Jake, like, look, I don't know. Doesn't he say, like, I'm not sure what will do, what will happen. Um, so I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say what's gonna go down. But she does. I guess she is pretty pivotal in helping Cisco be okay with the fact that Jake made that decision to do the surgery, and so she's kind of an integral part now of that.
I think that's a big part of it, is that she's really key for that life. And DS9 fan brought up the good point that real Cisco, pre-accident Cisco, did keep the apartment for her. So there are still some things there.
True. Yes. Yeah. Great point.
Yep. The last...
I really like her.
Yeah, good. I think she's good. I think they did we talked about that before, but I think they did such a great job with her helping the Maquis, but not like the way she was doing it. It all kind of very much made sense, and it was good. The last thing with this episode, so Cisco's about to die if he doesn't get surgery, and he's warned that if he gets the surgery, he likely will lose this power, and he doesn't want to be and he doesn't want to go through with it. And then once he's unconscious, Jake technically has that directive power and tells Bashir to do the surgery. So I was curious on your thoughts on that, because that's a good plot, but yeah. That's like an impossible kind of decision to make. And I can't imagine being in that position. I think Jake made the right decision. Right.
But I don't know. I mean, that would have been that's must have been really, really hard for him to see his dad be basically not his dad. And saying I need you here. And their relationship is just so great. The Jake Cisco relationship, I really, really enjoy, and I'm glad we have them back.
Yeah. I'm glad. And Andy brought up, he wanted to recall that episode of Voyager that have to do with the medical ethics. And there were a couple of them. There's the one I thought of right away was the one where the doctor and the memory, where they had to erase the doctor's memory. But
that's a great episode.
So good. That one sticks with you. But yeah, I mean, I think Star Trek does a great job of handling medical ethics like this, and it's interesting.
They do a great job of very detailed, rich stories about medical ethics. I'm not sure they always show the right decisions, but not always. Usually.
Right. But that's why it's difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, any other ones on this episode?
I don't think so.
Okay. The next one, this is probably my least favorite of this whole set. The Darkness and the Light. This is where a bunch of Kira's resistant cell are being taken out, and she suspects that she may be next. She ends up getting captured by this Cardassian who she had bombed, and he basically he's a little bit off the rails, and he's essentially trying to take the baby out of her to separate the darkness from the light, and it's a lot. Whole lot.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of glad to hear you say that, because I didn't love this episode either. And I'm not sure why. Well, obviously there's the creep factor of everything, but
yeah.
But it also just kind of felt weirdly disjointed. I don't know if it's the writing or something else was off about it. And it just sucked to see Kira, her whole band's getting picked off, and just God,
yeah,
Kira must suffer in this episode.
Seriously,
God, can't she just catch a break? But yeah, I don't know. It was kind of an off episode. I don't know what that was about.
I think it was just to offer maybe one of the reasons that I think it felt a little bit off for me is the tonal shift, like the way they go through this arc in one episode where you have like, oh my God, people I know are dying, to a pretty extended story, like where the, you know, other members show up. Like that's in this one. And then for it to take a very dark turn, you didn't get to like really feel the creepiness and the scariness of the Cardassian dude, like, because he's creepy. Yeah. He's in there like reciting sort of poetry and literature, and like, and he's like not
talking in the third person, and
yeah. But they didn't dwell on him enough for it to really land, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're right. That sort of middle part where the I forget their names, but her two friends show up in her quarters, like that was either too long or too short or something. Like,
right.
Yeah, it was a weirdly. You're right. They the beats of the episode were just happening at the wrong times. It felt like, and then you're right. It gets to this part where he's like going to cut the baby out of her and stuff, and it's just like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's fair. I do like, because I was really struggling to kind of think of like what the theme is with this episode, but then I do like the very last sort of line after it's all gone down and it's all okay, and it's very much like the end of a horror movie, you know, where they're like, they've rescued her from this like dungeon of torture. And she says like, it's this balance, like light only shines in the dark. And I just thought that was actually a very poignant line. And I think that is a good summary of Kira's character, and how she views the world. And so I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I liked that.
Couple other things that we liked about this episode. I love that Dax and Worf are just like, they're doing their job, and so we just get them bantering a little bit, and she basically has lost a bunch of Latinum gambling because she got grifted. And she's like, honey, he's like, nope, you can borrow from Quark. See if Quark will lend you the 3 bars of Latinum. That was so good.
Brilliant.
And then the other one I liked was when they were trying, because Kira keeps getting these messages that say, there's 1, there's 2, or that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, every time one of them gets killed. And then they're trying to figure out who the voice is, and Nog is there.
It's the Lobes.
It's the Lobes. He's like, no, it's a woman's voice. How can you tell? Don't question the Lobes. Never argue with someone's Lobes.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
And then it was kind of a cool, creepy reveal where it was actually Kira's voice. That was scary.
Yeah, that was so weird.
Yeah, and I wonder too if, as we've been talking about it, maybe part of it is that it didn't lean enough into the horror side that it didn't land. You know, they could have really gone dark with that, but
yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, any other ones on that?
I don't think, was this the one where she's in the hospital wing with Odo?
Yeah.
And she has that monologue?
Yeah. You want to talk about that one real quick?
No, I mean, we can move on, but
it's okay.
I really liked that monologue. I think that to me was another beat of, for me, getting more context into who she was. And a lot more context to her story. Like, I don't know if we knew by this time that she joined when she was 13 and like all of that stuff. It really gave me a lot more context to her character. Yeah.
Nancat 6600 redeemed posture check, so we all have to check our posture. That goes for everyone in the chat. We all need that. Which leads us nicely into the next episode, and if you did that intentionally, then well played, because this is the Begotten, which is the baby changeling episode, and I love this episode, but the posture funny part about this is the fact that Odo comes in with back pain.
Yeah, because his posture is too good.
Yeah. Exactly. And they basically like, he's like, no, you've got a pinched nerve. Like, because he's
Bashir's like, you need to learn to relax. And Odo's like, you said that last week.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't I right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so good. And then Hello Dolly reminded us to hydrate, so thank you.
Oh, I don't have any water, but I'll drink my coffee.
There you go. Yeah, Cairo mentioned, I love when Quark comes in and he's like, bad posture. So great. Yeah, I think it's fabulous. The other best part that I love about this, well, actually talk about the episode itself, but this cold open is so great because so then he says, why don't you try attending Worf's morning exercise class? I was like,
heard that, I was like, somehow I don't think that would help.
That's so funny. I was just like, oh my god, I can just picture Worf running the Klingon Tai Chi style on the promenade every morning. I just freaking love that image.
I know, and it's funny that we have seen him run that class a couple times or in some older cold opens, but for some reason when he said that, like, the thing that flashed in my mind was just an image of Worf and leg warmers.
So good. I just love this. I think that it's times like that where it's so self-referential, it's so self-aware, and it just leans into the comedy and gives such a great, like, this is why I love Deep Space Nine so much, is because they just talk about Worf's morning exercise class.
Yeah. All these little tidbits.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
And then they try to prescribe, as DS Steiner mentioned, they try to prescribe the Hala Suite to relax.
We're like, well, I've got a program you might like.
Yeah.
Oh,
pervert. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about the actual episode itself. They find a changeling, or Quark found a changeling that he thought was dead, and then finds out to be mostly sick, and basically puts him in sells him to Odo, with all Odo's not really paying attention, and then he tries to nurse it back to life, and I didn't write down the Dr. Mara, is that his name?
I forgot as well.
Yeah, I didn't write that down. I'll look it up real quick. But he basically comes, and for me, I feel like the whole theme of this episode is parenthood, because Kira also has the baby at the same time. But I thought what was so great about Mora, thank you, Dr. Mora. What was so great about the doctor being there is it was very grandparent, parent raising a kid energy. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Complete energy. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Generational parenting, basically. Because he is like both a grandparent and a parent so he's basically saying things like, well, this is your new sibling. You weren't that quick, or you were quicker than that. And like, yeah.
Yeah. It's, how'd you like this one? I really like this episode.
I loved this episode. I'm always a little bit on the fence with the Odo episodes. I gotta admit, he's kind of in the middle of my favorite characters. But this was a really, really endearing Odo episode. To see him like bond with this changeling, and I mean, his whole face just changes when he's looking at it, and it's just so sweet that he like just falls in love with it as a parent. And I mean, kudos to the actor. His name's Rene, right?
Rene Aubergenois. Yeah.
Rene. I mean, that's a tour de force of acting. It's like, hey, Rene, look at this goo. Like, it's the love of your life child. Like,
yeah. And it
was amazing.
He sells it.
He really does. He commits to that. And I mean, it was really sweet. And I did love the reconciliation that he has with Dr. Mora, because it really very much like the parent child relationship, where Odo now has this responsibility in a very similar way, and he goes, oh, I get it. I get why you acted that way, or there's a certain, I mean, we all go through that.
Yeah.
When as you grow up, and that was really interesting.
Yeah.
That sort of bridge that they managed to find.
Yeah, and I think they do a great job about the realization that, like, he needs to be firmer with the kid, but not take it to the extreme. And then for Dr. Mora to turn around and see how effective that was, you know, and he's like, you know, once he starts, like, forming shapes himself, he's like, God, you didn't do that for ages. And Odo was like, yeah, I did that to, like, slap your hand away from the control board. And I think it was good to see. I'm glad that it felt like Dr. Mora's understanding was very believable as well, and that helped that reconciliation.
Totally. Because I mean that's the whole, I'm going to raise my child differently than you raised me, but we can still find, and within that we can find our own healing if you know we need it, or and that's really powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And then it ends with Odo getting his changeling powers back.
Yeah, that honestly was unexpected. I thought he was going to stay sort of humanoid solid for forever. But I was glad to see it.
Yeah.
I'm curious how it will affect him now. Like, is he full changeling, or can he still eat? Right. And that kind of thing. Like, that's I'm going to be curious to watch him now, having gotten those powers back.
Yeah.
And then we also get Kira has the baby in the weirdest birthing ceremony.
Finally done with that.
O'Brien. Yeah, finally that creepstone of a plot line is done. O'Brien with the symbol was hilarious.
Yeah, that was so good.
Just so annoyed.
Time it. That was so great. Before we finish up and get into the Kira thing, there was just a couple things in the chat that I wanted to point out. So Cairo mentioned that they loved Worf's look when he found out that Odo's beverage was a changeling when he was in the bar. And then Christoph said something really funny. It was like, of off your Odo question, can he still kiss? Can he kiss better as a human or a changeling? And yeah. Anyway, Jedi has entered the chat with shake, 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 dong.
Yeah, shake, 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 dong.
So good.
So off time, and
the look on his face. Yeah, it was really funny. So it was a whole Bajoran pregnancy or birthing ceremony that they have, and they're one of the things I love is that her boyfriend doesn't show up. He's like, he's late, and O'Brien's just irritated with him. Like, I gotta say, this is probably, of the whole Kira pregnancy storyline, this is probably my favorite episode, just in the way that, like, Keiko and Kira turn against Bashir and is Shakar? Yeah.
Yeah.
The boyfriend. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
What a dork, too, man. Shakar. Ugh.
Yeah, so I love how after she has the baby, then like she meets him in the corridor or whatever, and her belly's like perfectly flat again.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not how things work. Maybe with the Jorans, I don't know.
It's true. You never know. It's alien species.
You never know. Could be. But it was just sort of noticeable.
But I love that scene with her and Odo, though, where they get, it's like, I feel like they kind of had done this and then coming back.
They're coming back.
And it made sense and it worked.
Totally. Yeah.
We love it. Love to see it. Okay. Any other things on this episode? I did get kind of emotional when Odo turns into a hawk, because that's what he wanted to teach his kid. And that was like when he had that feeling again, and then he just, without even saying a word, that was the first thing he wanted to do. Oh,
so sweet. Yeah.
So good. All right. Well, that's it for these 6 episodes. Good job.
Good job, team.
Good job, team. If anyone missed these and want to check them out, you can find the YouTube link down below. We'll post these there in a little bit. Next week, I believe it's next week, we're going to be discussing the next 6 episodes of season 5. So that's For the Uniform, In Purgatory's Shadow, By Inferno's Light, Dr. Bashir, I presume, which I have a feeling you're going to like that episode, A Simple Investigation, and Business as Usual. So we'll watch episodes 13 through 18, and we'll be back 11 a.m. Pacific time next Sunday. All good.
See you then.
All right. Well, thank you everyone again for hanging out, and live long and prosper. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
All right. Bye, everyone.